Okay, so now that recording is started, so I think maybe we can begin. Welcome to this workshop. The theme of the workshop is art and coding with Python using a small device called an ImagiCharm, which looks like this. I have to disconnect my video effects. If not, you won't see the devices. Okay, so it looks like this, but this is not the most important part. The important part is how we can use coding to be creative, and how we can use coding to develop a bit of artistic experiences for our students in our classrooms. It's possible we can do that. It's not very complicated, not very complex, and allows us to address a couple of ideas, namely the idea of artistic expression and the idea of learning how to code, and also transitioning from the blocks-based languages such as Scratch and others to more textual languages, with more complex modes of thinking. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. I'm a very lazy screen sharer. I share everything on my screen, so my deeper, darker secrets will be visible for all of you. Okay, so how should I begin? I think I should begin by showcasing a bit. Everybody is seeing the screen fine, not a problem. Okay, if you detect something, let me know so I know what is going wrong. Okay, so I'm going to start by showcasing a bit of the Imagi project. First things first, even though I like the project and even though I really support them, I'm not here to sell anything. I don't represent the company. I'm just a user that really loves their products. So don't take this workshop nor anything I say as an invitation to go buy stuff. I think every one of us has a huge plethora of learning devices, learning platforms, robots, etc. So it's just one more to add to your arsenal, to put it simple. So basically, this project was created because two young women, which were data science analysts at major corporations, felt that they needed to do something for girls in STEAM, namely the idea that I feel that when I'm teaching, my robotics club is mostly mixed, boys, girls, between 10, 11, 12 years old, everybody mixes in. No, there's no divide. But when kids start to become teenagers, starts to exist a divide between boys and girls tend to run away from this kind of learning experience. It should not be like that. Education, and especially technology education, should be inclusive. So this project tries to address that by creating a product that, like Gary quite put it in a very funny way, is not a project about making robots fight amongst themselves, but about making visual experiences, and it's just that. So you can check Imagi for what they do, what they enable, and of course, let's go to the funnier part. So I have the companion PowerPoints. Don't worry, this won't be a dev by PowerPoint presentation. It may be a dev by Python presentation, but that's kind of up to you. Alicia, do you take care about admissions?
I am. I'm on it.
Thank you. So first things first. This will be more of a how can I say, a scaffold, something to help me showcase things to you. But I will, at the end of this presentation, of this workshop, share the presentation with you and any material that you want or you would like to know more about. So this is not going to be a moment in which I will show slides and then talk about it. It will be a hands-on workshop. So first things first, to code, to use this platform, you need access to the Imagi platforms. You can access in two ways. You can use the Edu imagiLabs. I'm going to share it in the chat. I hope it goes only into the chat of this breakout room. If not, everyone will be able to go in here. And you can also use mobile devices. You can code using iPhones or Androids, but for teachers, using mobile devices is not a good thing. I mean, it is, of course, and I love using mobile devices in my classrooms. But specific to this platform is not the best suited tool for a classroom, because in this web-based platform, which I've just shown you, I will show you in a few minutes. We can create virtual classes and then check on the progress of our students. While on the mobile phone, the application is standalone. Kids can code freely on their phones, but unless they send to us, they share with us their projects, we won't see what they are doing. So as teachers, we also have to take into account that we need to grade, we need to check the progress, help around, etc. And this model of creating a virtual classroom is more or less better suited for our environment. So as an educator, I use the educator login, but as a student, if you want to join in, you can use this student login. And the thing is, which student login can you use? I'm going to share with you this spreadsheet, sorry. And this spreadsheet contains Zoom. Okay. This spreadsheet contains usernames, class access codes, and passwords. So if any of you wants to join in and start coding in this platform, just go here and feel free to join in. How do you join it? I mean, it's pretty simple. You just use this username, this class access code, and this password, and you enter all that information in this student login page. So should I wait a few seconds while people log in, or do you want me to proceed? It's as you like it. I'm going to take that silence as a yes. So I'm going to log in as an educator. So as an educator, let's see if I remember my password. I always say this in class. imagiLib. So now I'm going to show you a bit on the inside of the coding platform. This is my dashboard where I can see how many classes, how many student accounts I'm managing right now, how many draft projects and active classrooms I have. This is basic information. And then, of course, if you want to dive into what you can do with the Imagi resources, they have a lot of activity ideas, coding resources, print materials. So they do a lot of work in helping us develop our own projects. So actually, there is a small area called teaching content. If you don't feel very comfortable in implementing by yourself this kind of project in your classroom, you can simply go here and start checking all the slides to create a curriculum, because using just these slides, you can use it to develop your own curriculum. Personally, I prefer to do it my way, but of course, the most important thing in education is diversity. So while I believe that I'm capable, because I work hard for it, to create my own experience and my own learning curriculum, I completely and honestly support any teacher that feels less comfortable and looks at this and says, I'm going to transport this to my classroom because I think it's useful. So no problem with that. So now to the classroom bit, to the area where we can manage our students. So I'm saying this because I'm assuming lots of you are students, and you may want to use this with your students. So I'm just going to do a quick show on how this is set up. It's actually pretty easy. If you want to create a classroom, you just click create a classroom, enter a classroom name, and then assign the students' names using a code. I'm not going to create a new classroom. I'm going to just enter the ones I've created for you. And basically, these are the students I've created. I prefer to use codes Sometimes you can use the names. I mean, everyone uses the whichever way is best for them. There's this pretty cool thing called print and reminder card, which my young students, fifth grade, fifth year in Portugal, really love. I've seen some of my students taping these cards to their smartphones so they don't forget their class code. So there are a lot of ways to send information and then show people how they can enter this and use them. And now let's start by the main thing, which is coding and how to use this platform to develop artistic. Okay, I'm using quotes because it's a very complex subject, and I don't like to be overly simplistic by saying that this is a perfectly artistic endeavor. It's just another way to express ourselves. I believe coding is far more than a skill for the economy. Is a thinking skill, and as a thinking skill can also be used for us to express ourselves. And of course, if you look at the history of art, there are lots of artists since the 1950s and until today that use coding and robotics as their preferred language, as a language for visual and artistic expression. I'm not going to go into that because Alitia will shut me up in a couple of 10 minutes time, so 30 minutes time. So I'm not going to go much into that. I'm going to start diving in on how to code using this. So the first thing you have to understand about this is that this is a simplified Python coding environment. So you can use this to start learning, to transition from blocks-based languages, such as Scratch, into text-based languages, but you are doing it in a closed environment in which the Python language has been simplified so that the students have an easier experience. And of course, the main goal, the goal, the one thing you can do with these gadgets is to create images, animations, text images. You can do a bit more, but I haven't quite gotten into that because the possibilities are actually wider than what seems at the first. So if I want to create a project, you see there I have a couple of projects here to showcase my students and to show them how to do things. So I'm going, if any of you has entered this classroom, you just click on new project and you start to see the coding area. Just going to walk you through this area where you see the cursor blinking is where you write the code. Of course, I don't think there's much of a doubt in that. Over here on this side, you can see a matrix because essentially I'm going to strip my charm. Basically, the charm is exactly this: is a LED matrix which you will code. That's a very simple piece of technology. Now, how am I going to assemble this? Oh, exactly. So in this black area over here, you see the representation of the matrix for the charm. This is where you will see a preview of your code. Nothing happens here if you don't run your code. That's actually quite a fun lesson for my students because they start writing code and then they look at the matrix and they say, nothing is happening over here. So of course not. Why? Why not? Why nothing is happening on the screen? You wrote code, but you have to do another step. Which step? And so they discover the idea of running code, and they go, oh, and okay. So what's the main principle of the charm? You have this matrix, this LED matrix, and you can code it by using specific commands. So to code the LED matrix, it's the most basic thing is just to light up a LED. So that's what I'm going to do. So to code the matrix, first thing I have to do is to invoke the m command, which says to the Python program that you are now coding the LED matrix, and then using, I don't know how to say it in English, rectangular parentheses. I think that's the name for it. I have to assign the coordinates. Brackets, thank you. Using brackets, I have to assign the coordinates of the LEDs. And then I had to say that the LED is, of course, on, because if not, nothing will happen. Then I run the code and something happens in my screen. This is very basic. And then I can upload this to my chart. I won't do it right now because for now it's pretty simple. So at the very basic, at the very beginning, it begins with this: start lighting a LED. But of course, you can do so much more. You can start lighting up more LEDs along the way. So one question for all of you: is anyone here interested in doing some coding right now, or should I just proceed? That's just for me to know if I have to make a pause between coding projects so that I can give you time to experiment, or if I just go ahead. Okay, but no, you are a suspect. Okay, so I generally start with this small project with my students, showing them that you can light a LED, and of course, I forgot something. I forgot there's a pattern for this. The first number on the coordinates is the row. The second number is the column. That's important so that we don't get lost among ourselves. But of course, if we start coding, just on and off, it's rather boring. So I can do so much more. So I'm going to jump into my presentation. So I can start coding by using, I'm not going to do the coding exercises with you because online workshops are always hard that way. So first things first, I can light LEDs. I can make something happen on the screen and on the device. But then I can start using color, and color here can be used in two ways. As you are seeing in the screen, I can use some functions to define colors, and I can also use RGB values to define colors. How do we do that? It's very simple. I'm going to share in a minute. I'm going to do something very lazy. I'm going to code like an lentejano. Some people here get the joke. The ones that don't get won't get, so I'm not going to explain it. So I'm going to just copy and paste a couple of coordinates so that I can show you how to code with colors. And I'm going to be very lazy. Actually, my students quickly learn this trick. Since you are working with columns, it's actually very easy to start. I'm distracting myself. It's 2, it's a 3, it's a 4, it's a 5, it's a 6. Okay, it's a 3, 4. Okay, not a problem. So if I run this code, something will happen on my screen. Not exactly what I was expecting. I kind of got lost in the numbers, but no worries. This is mostly for experiments. So if I change the on value to the color code, for example, B for blue and R for red, or A for aqua, G for green. I'm just showing some random colors. Another thing will happen on the screen. I'm going to write K on the last two ones so that you can check something out. So I'm going to run this code, and as you can see, the image on the screen starts to become colorful. But you might notice that some of my LEDs don't show light, right? The last two LEDs, the line 6, line 7, is not turning on. Actually, it is. It's just using the black color, which means lights off. So it's basically the same thing. So if I change this for another value, now you should see things lighting up. So right now, this does not seem very impressive, because what are we doing here? Just lighting up some LED. Of course, we can use this to create pixel art experiments by coding one LED at a time. I'm going to show you a project on that. For example, one of the things that I show my students to do, I'm going to show you one of my challenging projects, not one of my students' projects, They have so much of them. I will show you at the end of the workshop. If we have time for a question and answer time, I'm going to show you what my students actually do. Actually, we are seeing some right now. Okay, so one of the things that you can do with this, and kids actually love to do this, is to create small pixel art experiences. The kids can be very persistent. I really don't have the patience to write all this code, but they have. So they love to start imagining what they want to do: a sword, a house with a blue sky, a character, etc. And they start coding line by line, one by one. And that's, I think, as a teacher, I always get into a bit of a conundrum, because I start to think. I see them coding line by line, and I'm thinking, no, I should be teaching them about functions, about for loops, about nested loops, etc., because they could create a far more efficient code. But then I look at their faces and I see them smiling. So I understand that maybe I should stop being a teacher and let them play with these tools, let them just explore by themselves. It's not the most efficient way, of course, but if I teach in the most efficient way, they will not have time to play by themselves. And that's something that sometimes we don't have time to, we have so little time with our students. Sometimes you have to find, as Gary said so perfectly, time for them to breathe. Okay, so I've opened this project to show you something, which is how I can transport this code from my screen into this device. So I've plugged.
Give him a second.
Okay, if I
We
froze.
lost you for a second, just so you know. So we kind of missed out on the last few things you said.
Yeah. I noticed I froze up a bit. Okay, so I'm going to do a small rewind. So I've opened this project to show you a very basic as in terms of not very complex in coding terms, project with students, which is to create pixel arts. That I was using it. I'm going to use it to show you how to transport the project to the Charm. But one thing I think it's important to say, these devices are a bit expensive. They cost about 90 euros in Europe. So they're not that accessible. And the thing is, you don't need this to code. You don't need this to work with your students and make them create pixel art and animations, etc. This is an extra, which they love, they really love. But I really want to stress that the main thing, the important thing, is not the gadget, but the actions of coding, the idea of putting your ideas into code and using the platform to code. That's the main thing. If you don't have this, not a problem. If you have it, cool, because they really love this. I'm just going to turn it on. For classroom management, if you have a lot of these devices, it can be a problem. Anyone that teaches a classroom, for example, with microbits and other devices that connect via Bluetooth, you see that it can be complicated, because lots of devices signing on at the same time. So here the problem is solved by two things. If I start off my Charm, it's not very visible. Let's see. No, my camera won't adjust. But in here is a number and a color. So I just have to have my Bluetooth connected, which I have, and now I'm going to upload to the Charm, and you see that appears on my devices list a name with a color and a number. If you have more charms emitting in your classroom, all the charms will be displaying the names and the numbers, so it's easier for each one to find its own charm. So I'm going to synchronize it. I'm going to upload it. Something happens, and now, unfortunately, not visible, the image that you are seeing on the screen is actually the image that you are seeing here. My camera is not helping you guys to see the fun part. Okay, so let's go back to coding. I was using this to show you how to do things a bit more complex. My time is quite running out, and I'm going to go back to projects. If, as I've said, I'm going to share this presentation with you. This is my own curriculum, what I use in my classroom, as in, instead of, because I don't have that much time, so I've compressed the main project with Charm into a couple of learning projects. You start by lighting up, pressing on, pressing off, and then you start by doing some typing exercises because they need to get the feel of the tool. I mean, I love the idea that students should and can be autonomous, but at the early start, at the very beginning, we have to guide them, because if not, they are going to feel lost. So this type of small exercises, code a heart, code a small animation, is mostly for them to start typing and to start getting used to the interface. So as I was saying, pushing down, as I was saying, you can use colors to code. I'm going to show you in a minute that you can use far more than these preset colors to code. And during the classes, I generally challenge them at the beginning to start coding this kind of projects. For example, coding a smiley, and then of course adding a bit of animation using the blink rates, the blink rate function. So English not being my first language, if I stutter sometimes, sorry, it happens. So I'm going to jump a bit. I'm not going to go on a step-by-step basis because time is of the essence. And I'm going to, sorry, I forgot a bit of Greek over there. I'm going to show you another fun thing that you can do with the charms, which is to create animations. So I'm going to go back to coding, and I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to, I think it was, I'm going to do a small, if I fall silent while I'm writing, it's because I am a man, and so I only can do one thing at the same time.
You man, is what you meant.
Okay, 6. Ora, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7. And I'm going to create a mistake. I'm going to do an 8 line just to see what will happen. So as you know, if I press run code, something happens, and what happened is not what I wanted. A mistake happens. One of the quirks of the quirks, it has to do with the Python coding environment, is that we have 64 LED matrix, but we count from 0 to 7. So if you are trying to run your code and this bug happens, it just means that you are using a number that is beyond the range of the matrix. That's why I've coded this 8, just to show you that this is a common mistake. The kids do it all the time. I do it all the time. So I'm coding 7, 7, 7, 8, and if out of range happens, all we have to do is to debug the code and see where there's a mistake. So I'm going to again create some colors over here, but now I'm not going to use the function colors. I'm going to use RGB colors. How do you do that? So you may have noticed there's a design button over here, and that design button is going to shows me another matrix. Okay, I'm having a bit of Zoom troubles. Okay, now it's out of the way. So this is a way for kids to practice, as in they can plan their design ahead because they just press the squares and it will create a design. But the thing is, this is not code. This is just like you taking a piece of paper. I generally tell them to bring to class
think he's still frozen. Give him a second. Oh. Womp womp. Here, I'm gonna pause.
Sorry again. This was not expected. I'm going to start sharing again. Hey, Murphy's Law, right? What will happen will happen. Back to sharing. So if I recall, I was trying to talk to you about colors during the design phase. Okay.
Yes.
And as I think I was clear. This design is just for to create a draft. It won't translate into code. But if you want to use other colors, you can use this circle over here, and then choose just copy the RGB code, and you are good to go in any color you want. I'm going to just copy a few of them over here. I don't want to waste to spend much more time. I should have taken advantage of my downtime to code all of these, but I was actually worried that I had lost my internet. So I'm just going to use another color over here. So as you can see, you are limited only by the RGB color palette. So you only have about 16 million colors to choose from. It may be enough for your projects, I don't know. So if I run this code, as you may expect, it will just create a small line across the matrix, and I'm going to create a small animation. So to animate, the first thing we have to do is to invoke the animation function, and then if you can recall how to do stop motion animation, like I have to define frame by frame, and define frame by frame is just I can define a frame wherever I want. I can define a frame at the end of all this coding. I just write a_add frame, and I will name it M. But if I run this, you won't see anything because it will be okay. I had sorry, I have a bug here. Up.add frame. So if I run this, you won't see much because I've added a frame at the end of my code. But if I, for example, start putting a if I put add frames between my lines, it will create an animation. So with this technique, you can create a simple animation or a complex one, because I'm showing you just the basic one. I'm putting some add frames amongst these lines, and what happens is that they start to light up in sequence and create a small animation. But of course, I can be more ambitious. Alethea, how much time do I have?
7 minutes.
7 minutes. So I was tempting to show you how for loops can be used in these projects. I'm not going to demonstrate. I'm just going to show you an example. So you all know what a for loop is, right? Okay. So I'm going to show you exactly how you can use a for loop. So this is actually pretty interesting for students. In this project, I'm combining a for loop with animation. So as you can see on the first code block, this is a for loop. It will determine that for all the rows and columns, there should be only one color. In the presentation, which I will share before finishing this workshop, there are practical examples on how to do this, so don't worry. And you can combine because this is sequential, you can combine for loops with animations to create more complex projects. To finish, because I want to leave some time for questions, I'm going to show you what my kids do, because that's the important part, right? Me standing here showing you how to code in a simplified Python environment, it's good for starting things up, but the most important thing is to show what they do. So I'm going to open one of my most successful classes, 5e, and I'm going to look into, for example, what this kid is doing, number 15 in the class. He discovered by himself, because I haven't taught him how to do this, how to create scrolling text. Is a function. And the cool thing is that I remember that the kids from this class actually discovered this by themselves, because I haven't given them time to do this. Or let's see what we can do, what we can see, for example, over here. Other kids just do smaller, simple projects, but remember, these are projects created by 10-year-olds. So we can't and we won't expect them to create great things. Small things that leave them motivated and leave them passionate about what they do. Or, sorry, wrong one. If I go into my robotics club, you see that my students like to do more crazy stuff. For example, I have a student which comes from a country that is currently having a bit of a problem, and she loves to code and comes during her lunchtime to my office just to develop this kind of projects. She right now is still on the phase of sequential. Now I have to start steering her towards more efficient ways to code. But what I really like is the way that the kids smile while we are coding this, and their smile when the code shows up on the device. And more complex projects created by students, because that's the point. So two of my students like to work in pairs and like to do things like this, create animations in which it's not interactive, but it's more complex than just creating a small bug that moves around the screen. So my time is running out. So I would like to conclude now, because I could stay the whole afternoon talking about this, showing how to do this, but of course we don't have that much time. And I would like to leave some time for questions and answers. So I hope you've taken from this workshop. First, sorry for the break of my internet. It was unexpected and unwanted, but of course this kind of thing happens. I hope I've managed to show that you can use coding not just to create the type of projects that are usually created in code, but to code using artistic ideas. If you don't want to use Python or Charm, etc., I can recommend you a very cool book about coding using Scratch environments. It will show you a lot of ideas on how to create art projects using Scratch. But of course, I'm talking about the Python coding environment. With this coding environment, you can introduce your students to Python, and you do it in a fun way. And they are not, as I can, how can I put this? They are not learning to code because learning to code is important. They are learning to code because it's significant for them, because they are doing fun stuff, because they code on their computers, and then they run on the computers, and they start to film with their cell phones what happens on the screen, and then they pass the code to the small device, to the Charm device, and they start getting really excited, because the real world, the code that they have written in their computer has affected the real world inside that small device that they have at their availability. And of course, for me, which I'm an arts teacher at art, the idea that coding projects can be just for fun is, I think, I'm out of time. Sorry, I'm just going to share the presentation.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. I think I'm gonna try it with a group of girls that I've been working with.
Yeah, that's exactly the target audience. But it works with boys, girls, and even
Yeah.
adults start to
Totally.
do this and start to go, oh my god, this is so fun. Like me, for example. So I've just shared the presentation. You are free to use this. It's in English. If any of you has accessed my classroom, all the materials that are available for students are also free for you to use. So please have fun with this. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. And sorry for any inconvenience on my internet and my English, of course.